Staring at a blank ceiling, I took my final breath in a sterile hospital bed entirely alone. Across town, my three brothers were busy celebrating our adopted sister's engagement, oblivious to the girl who had spent her whole life begging for their scraps of affection. When my eyes fluttered open 5 years in the past, however, that lifelong desperation had vanished. I was finally done playing the fool. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It wasn't the antiseptic stench of the ICU, nor was it the metallic tang of blood coughing up in my throat. It was lavender and expensive floor wax, the signature scent of the Hastings estate. I sat up, my heart hammering against my ribs, gripping the silk sheets of my canopy bed. I threw off the covers and stumbled toward the full-length mirror. Staring back at me wasn't the gaunt, dying 23-year-old woman whose body had given out from severe kidney failure while her family ignored her emergency calls. It was an 18-year-old girl, cheeks flushed, eyes wide, and wholly, blessedly alive. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. The screen lit up with the date, October 14th. A bitter, humorless laugh escaped my lips. I knew this day. It was the day of the annual fall gala, the exact day my life in my previous timeline had irrevocably shattered. In my past life, this was the morning our adopted sister Lily claimed I had stolen her custom diamond and sapphire brooch, a family heirloom given to her by our eldest brother, Percival. I remembered exactly how it played out. I had cried. I had fallen to my knees, clutching Percival's perfectly tailored trousers, begging him to believe me. Declan, our middle brother, had looked at me with cold, clinical disgust, before recommending I be sent to a psychiatric facility for pathological jealousy. And Leo, the youngest, had simply spat at my feet. They had torn my room apart, found the brooch planted in my mattress, and locked me in the basement for 3 days while they attended the gala with Lily, smiling for the cameras. The Hastings brothers had always hated me. Our mother, Sophia, died giving birth to me. To them, I wasn't their little sister. I was the murderer who took their mother away. When our father brought home Lily, a sweet, frail orphan with doe eyes, she became the vessel for all the love and protection I was starved of. For 18 years, I tried to earn my place. I baked their favorite foods. I did Leo's calculus homework. I organized Declan's legal files. I stayed up late waiting for Percival to come home from board meetings just to offer him tea. None of it mattered. In the end, they let me die. I looked at my reflection one last time. The girl who desperately wanted a family was dead. She died in that hospital. Moving with a calm I didn't know I possessed, I pulled a heavy canvas duffel bag from the back of my closet. I didn't pack the designer dresses Percival bought me for public appearances, nor the expensive jewelry meant to keep up the Hastings image. I packed 3 pairs of jeans, some plain shirts, my ID, my mother's silver locket, and the $5,000 I had secretly saved from online tutoring. I zipped the bag, hoisted it over my shoulder, and opened my bedroom door. Downstairs, the performance had already begun. As I descended the grand mahogany staircase, the sound of soft, pathetic weeping echoed from the living room. "I just don't know where it could be, Percival," Lily sobbed, burying her face into her manicured hands. "I left the brooch right on my vanity. I was going to wear it tonight to honor Mom." Percival, standing tall in his charcoal bespoke suit, was rubbing her back. His face, usually a mask of corporate stoicism, was softened with absolute devotion. Next to them, Leo was pacing like a caged tiger, cracking his knuckles. Declan sat in the leather armchair, sipping his black coffee, his sharp eyes calculating. "Don't cry, Lil," Leo snarled, his eyes darting toward the stairs as he heard my footsteps. "We all know exactly who took it. The rat is awake." In my past life, this was the moment my throat would close up. I would start stammering, pleading my innocence before the accusation was even fully formed. Today, I didn't even break my stride. I walked into the living room, my duffel bag heavy on my shoulder. 4 pairs of eyes locked onto me. "Where do you think you're going?" Percival demanded, his voice a low, authoritative rumble. "Put the bag down, Clara. We are going to search your room." "There's no need," I said. My voice was eerily steady, devoid of the usual tremor. I walked straight past a stunned Leo, right up to the velvet chaise lounge where Lily had discarded her cream-colored Prada handbag. Before anyone could process my movement, I grabbed the bag and turned it upside down. Makeup, keys, mints, and a silk scarf tumbled onto the glass coffee table, and right in the center, glinting under the chandelier, was the diamond and sapphire brooch. Clink! The room fell into a deafening silence. Lily's face drained of color. I don't know how that got in there," she stammered, her voice suddenly high-pitched. "She must have put it in my bag. Percival, I swear." I didn't let her finish. I unclasped the Platinum Hastings family crest watch from my wrist, the only birthday gift they had ever given me purely for PR purposes, and dropped it onto the glass table next to the brooch. Then I pulled the black titanium limitless credit card from my pocket and tossed it down as well. "Keep the watch, keep the card." "Keep the lies," I said, looking directly at Percival. His jaw was slacked in rare, unadulterated shock. I turned to Declan, who was staring at the brooch with narrowed, analytical eyes, and finally to Leo, whose mouth was hanging open. "What kind of manipulative game are you playing, Clara?" Declan finally spoke, his voice clipped. "If you think staging this little stunt gets you out of—" "I'm not playing anything, Declan," I interrupted, feeling a glorious, terrifying weight lift off my chest. "I'm leaving. You don't have to look at the girl who killed your mother anymore. You have Lily. You've always only wanted Lily." "Clara, stop being dramatic," Percival snapped, stepping forward. He reached out to grab my arm, the same way he did in the past, right before he struck me. I flinched, stepping back so quickly I knocked into the doorway. The primal fear was still there, embedded in my muscle memory, but I forced my spine straight. "Do not touch me." My tone was so icy, so utterly foreign to the sniveling sister they knew, that Percival froze mid-step. "Let her go, Artie," Leo scoffed, recovering his bravado. "She won't last a day. She'll be calling us by midnight, begging to come back in. She's just doing this for attention." I looked at Leo, really looked at him, remembering the way he laughed when the hospital told him my kidneys were failing. "She's just faking it for drug money," he had told the doctors. "I won't," I said softly. "Consider me dead. It's what you've always wanted anyway." I turned my back on the Hastings family, walked out the heavy oak front doors, and walked down the sweeping driveway. I didn't look back. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, I was free. I didn't wander the streets aimlessly. I knew exactly where I was going. An hour later, a yellow cab dropped me off in front of a sprawling, ivy-covered brownstone on the Upper East Side. The brass plaque by the door read Montgomery. My mother's family. After my mother died, my father and the brothers completely cut off the Montgomerys. My grandmother, Eleanor Montgomery, was a ruthless, brilliant matriarch who built a massive real estate empire from the ground up. She had blamed my father's negligence for her daughter's death and despised my brothers for how they treated me. When I was 10, I tried to call her, but Percival caught me, smashed the phone, and told me that Eleanor hated me just as much as they did. In my past life, I believed him. I died thinking the whole world despised me. But in those final days in the hospital, a nurse had told me a wealthy older woman had tried to visit me, only to be turned away by Declan's legal injunctions. I walked up the stone steps and pressed the buzzer. A minute later, the heavy door clicked open, revealing a stern-faced butler who looked at me with polite confusion. Before he could speak, a sharp voice echoed from the hallway. "Who is it, Thomas?" An elegant woman in her late 70s, leaning on a silver-tipped cane, stepped into the foyer. She wore sharp tailored trousers, and her silver hair was pulled into an immaculate chignon. Her piercing blue eyes, the exact same shade as mine, locked onto me. For a moment, time stopped. Eleanor Montgomery stared at the duffel bag slung over my shoulder, then at my face. "So," Eleanor said, her voice trembling just a fraction before settling into a commanding tone. "You finally stopped trying to warm up a block of ice, my dear?" Tears, real tears, pricked my eyes. "They told me you hated me." Eleanor's expression darkened with a terrifying, protective fury. She closed the distance between us, pulling me into a fierce embrace that smelled of expensive perfume and old books. I have waited 18 years for you to walk through that door, Clara. Welcome home. Over the next 2 months, my life transformed. Under Eleanor's guidance, I didn't just survive, I thrived. She didn't coddle me, she challenged me. I enrolled in an accelerated finance program at Columbia University. I started interning at Montgomery Holdings, learning the vicious, fast-paced world of commercial real estate. I was sharp, ruthless, and driven by the sheer will to never be helpless again. Meanwhile, the illusion of peace at the Hastings estate was quietly shattering. I didn't know the specifics right away, but the society blogs and whispers in the financial district painted a clear picture. The Hastings brothers had expected me to crawl back. When a week passed, then 2, then a month, their annoyance morphed into a chaotic disruption. I later learned from Thomas, who kept tabs on the Hastings staff, exactly how far they were unraveling. It started with the small things. Leo, who was used to me ghostwriting his college essays and managing his intense athletic schedule, nearly failed out of his first semester. He had screamed at the maids to find his lucky lacrosse gear, only to realize I was the one who had hand-washed and repaired it after every game. Declan, the meticulous lawyer, suffered a severe allergic reaction during a high-stakes deposition. He had assumed his chef knew about his obscure allergy to a specific binding agent in a brand of spices. He didn't know I had spent years personally auditing the kitchen pantry to keep him safe. And Percival. Percival's carefully curated domestic life was falling apart. Without me silently managing the household accounts, mediating staff disputes, and keeping the estate running like a well-oiled machine, the Hastings home became a war zone of incompetence. And then Lily made her first mistake. Used to being the center of attention and sensing the brothers' growing distraction, she decided to play her favorite card, the victim. According to the rumors in our social circle, Lily claimed I was aggressively stalking her online and sending her threatening letters demanding she leave the family. She presented Declan with a series of printed emails and a handwritten letter dropped in their mailbox. In the past, Declan would have immediately filed a restraining order against me without looking into it. But my sudden departure and the absolute coldness in my eyes that morning had planted a tiny, gnawing seed of doubt in his hyper-analytical mind. Declan ran an IP trace on the emails. They bounced back to a secure server, but one sloppy login connected to the Hastings estate's own guest Wi-Fi. Then he pulled the security footage from their front gate. The footage clearly showed Lily, wrapped in a trench coat at 2 a.m., slipping the threatening letter into their own mailbox. He didn't expose her immediately. The Hastings pride was too strong, but the pedestal she stood on had finally cracked. My first face-to-face encounter with my former family happened exactly 62 days after my rebirth. Eleanor had taken me to Le Bernardin to celebrate my first successful solo portfolio acquisition. I was wearing a sleek, emerald green silk dress, my hair blown out, laughing as I clinked my champagne flute against my grandmother's. You negotiated them down 15%, Clara. Your mother would be terrified and incredibly proud, Eleanor chuckled. I learned from the best, I smiled, taking a sip. Clara? The voice was like a bucket of ice water. I turned my head slowly. Standing near the maitre d's stand was Leo. He was dressed in a crumpled designer hoodie, looking uncharacteristically exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes. Beside him was a group of his frat friends, but he was staring at me like he had seen a ghost. He broke away from his group and marched over to our table. He looked at my dress, the champagne, and then at Eleanor, whom he had only ever seen in terrifying business profiles. "What the hell is this?" Leo demanded, his voice thick with a mix of anger and something pathetic that sounded like relief. "We've had private investigators looking for you for a month. You're sitting here drinking champagne? Do you have any idea how much Lily has been crying? How stressed Percival is?" He reached out, expecting me to cower, intending to grab my wrist. "Stop throwing a tantrum. You've made your point. Come home right now." I didn't flinch this time. I didn't move a muscle. I simply set my champagne glass down and looked up at him with the detached curiosity one might reserve for an annoying insect. "I'm sorry," I said smoothly, my voice carrying clearly over the soft jazz of the restaurant. Do I know you? Leo blinked, stumbling back a half step. What? Clara, stop playing games. It's me, Leo, your brother. I don't have any brothers, I replied, turning my gaze back to Eleanor, who was watching Leo with eyes like a striking cobra. I raised my hand and signaled the head of security. Excuse me, this man is harassing our table. Please have him removed. The maitre d' signaled two burly security guards, who immediately flanked Leo. He looked wildly between me and the guards, his face flushing a deep, humiliated crimson. Clara! Stop this right now! I am your blood! Leo shouted, his voice cracking as the guards gripped his arms. Diners turned their heads, the quiet hum of the restaurant replaced by the scandalized whispers of New York's elite. I took a slow, deliberate sip of my champagne. I suggest you leave before they call the police, young man. You are making a fool of yourself. You're a Hastings, he screamed, dragging his heels across the polished marble floor as they physically hauled him toward the exit. You hear me? You'll always be a Hastings. The heavy glass doors shut behind him, cutting off his frantic shouting. Eleanor dabbed her mouth elegantly with a linen napkin. Well, she murmured, a wicked glint in her sharp blue eyes. That was certainly better than dinner theater. You handled that beautifully, my dear. He's a stranger to me, grandmother, I replied softly. And the terrifying part was, it was entirely true. My heart, which used to bleed every time Leo so much as scowled at me, hadn't skipped a single beat. News of the public humiliation spread like wildfire through Manhattan's upper crust. The society pages loved a fallen dynasty, and the Hastings brothers were beginning to hemorrhage credibility. But the final, devastating blow wouldn't happen in a restaurant. It would happen on my new battlefield, the boardroom. 6 months had passed since my rebirth. The Montgomery Holdings team had spent the last 4 weeks preparing a hostile bid for the Hudson Project, a multi-billion-dollar waterfront development that Percival Hastings had staked his company's entire quarter on. Winning this bid wasn't just business for Percival, it was survival. His investors were getting anxious, especially since the once perfectly managed Hastings enterprise had been missing crucial deadlines. They didn't know it was because the invisible girl who used to silently organize their chaotic internal logistics was gone. On a rainy Tuesday morning, I walked into the glass-walled conference room of the Hudson Consortium. I wore a tailored crimson pantsuit, my hair pulled into a severe, sleek ponytail. Eleanor had given me full proxy. 10 minutes later, the double doors opened. Percival and Declan strode in, flanked by their legal team. Percival looked haggard. The sharp, intimidating aura he usually projected was frayed around the edges. Declan looked worse too thin, his eyes hyper-focused and bloodshot. Percival's eyes swept the room, expecting Eleanor. Instead, they landed on me. He stopped dead in his tracks. The heavy leather portfolio slipped from his fingers, hitting the floor with a loud smack. Declan froze beside him, his jaw tightening so hard I could see the muscle ticking from across the room. Clara? Percival breathed, all the wind knocked out of his sails. I didn't smile. I gestured smoothly to the chairs opposite me. Mr. Hastings, please, take a seat. The board is ready to hear your proposal. Percival stepped forward, completely ignoring protocol. What is this? Clara, you need to come home. This little rebellion has gone far enough. Lily is practically having a nervous breakdown. Leo is on academic probation, and we need you. For a man who had never uttered the word need in his life, it was a staggering confession. But I wasn't the girl who craved his validation anymore. If you cannot maintain professional decorum, Mr. Hastings, I will ask the board to disqualify your firm immediately, I said, my voice ringing with absolute chilling authority. Percival recoiled as if slapped. Declan, ever the strategist, put a hand on his older brother's shoulder and forced him into a chair. Play the game, Percival, Declan hissed, though his eyes never left my face, analyzing this new, terrifying version of the sister he thought he knew. The presentations began. Percival's team pitched a conservative, numbers-heavy strategy. It was good, but it was flawed. When it was my turn, I didn't just present the Montgomery counteroffer. I dismantled the Hastings proposal piece by piece. Hastings Enterprise promises a completion date in 36 months, I said smoothly, pulling up a slide on the projector. However, what they have failed to disclose to this board is their severe liquidity crisis. A crisis stemming from a heavily leveraged offshore account. Percival went pale. He shot a panicked look at Declan. That offshore account was a strictly guarded family secret, one I only knew about because, in my past life, I was the one who balanced Percival's private ledgers at 2 a.m. while he slept. Furthermore, I continued, pacing the length of the room with predatory grace, their legal counsel has severely underestimated the zoning litigation risks on the Eastern Bloc. A risk that will cost an additional $40 million. I looked directly at Declan, the brilliant lawyer who had missed a glaring loophole. It seems your internal auditing has suffered recently, Mr. Hastings. The board members began whispering frantically. Declan's hands shook as he looked at the documents I had provided. He realized in that exact moment that the brilliant analytical mind he prided himself on was second to mine. He had dismissed me as a simpleton for 18 years, never realizing I was the glue holding his chaotic brilliance together. Just as the board chairman was about to speak, the conference room doors burst open. "Percival, you have to come right now." It was Lily. She was drenched in rain, mascara running down her cheeks, looking like a tragic heroine. She had bypassed security, completely unaware of the magnitude of the meeting she was interrupting. "Lily, what are you doing here?" Percival hissed, looking mortified. "My car declined at the boutique, and Leo took the Bentley without telling me. And the chef quit," she wailed, stomping her foot. "You have to fix it. Everyone is being so mean to me." The silence in the boardroom was deafening. The titans of New York real estate stared at this 20-year-old woman throwing a toddler's tantrum over a declined credit card in the middle of a billion-dollar acquisition meeting. I leaned over the microphone. "I believe the board has seen enough to make an informed decision regarding the stability of Hastings Enterprise. We won the bid before I even left the building." The fallout was apocalyptic. Losing the Hudson project tanked Hastings Enterprises stock by 20% in a single week. But the financial ruin was nothing compared to the implosion of their beloved surrogate sister. Triggered by the humiliation in the boardroom, Declan finally turned his investigative skills toward the very person he had protected for years. If I, the useless sister, was actually a genius, what did that make Lily the perfect one? The truth he uncovered shattered their world. Through Thomas, my grandmother's butler, I heard the whole ugly story. Declan found out that Lily hadn't just faked the threatening letters. He audited her private accounts and discovered she had a severe, hidden gambling addiction. The family heirlooms she claimed she lost or framed me for stealing had been pawned to pay off loan sharks. She had been manipulating the brothers for years, playing them against each other, and using my desperation for their love as a shield for her own sociopathic behavior. When Percival confronted her, Lily had screamed, cried, and finally admitted that she hated me because I was their actual blood, and she knew she would always just be a stray. They kicked her out that very night. No trust fund, no bodyguards, nothing. 2 days later, the storm of the decade hit Manhattan. Thunder rattled the windows of the Montgomery estate. I was in the library, sitting by the crackling fireplace with a cup of Earl Grey, reviewing a contract, when the intercom buzzed. "Miss Clara," Thomas's voice crackled, "you have visitors at the front gate. I told them to leave, but they are refusing. Shall I call the authorities?" I walked to the massive bay window and looked out into the torrential rain. Standing beyond the wrought iron gates were 3 figures, completely soaked, shivering, and looking utterly broken. Percival, Declan, and Leo. "No, Thomas," I said quietly. "Get my umbrella." I walked down the long, winding driveway. The wind whipped the black canopy of my umbrella, but I didn't rush. When I reached the gates, the 3 powerful Hastings brothers looked like drowned rats. Leo was openly sobbing. Declan was staring at the ground, rain plastering his hair to his forehead, looking like a man who had lost his mind. Percival stepped forward, gripping the iron bars of the gate. "Clara," Percival choked out. The proud, untouchable CEO was trembling. "Clara, please, open the gate." "You are trespassing." I said, my voice completely devoid of emotion. We know everything, Declan said, his voice breaking. He looked up at me, his eyes bloodshot and pleading. I investigated Lily. She manipulated us. She lied about the brooch, about the letters, about everything. We were so blind. We were so horribly wrong. I'm sorry. God, Clara, I am so sorry. I missed you, Leo cried, pushing against the gate. I need you to come home, Clara. The house is dead without you. We kicked Lily out. It's just us now, like it should have been. Just our real family. We'll do anything, Percival begged, falling to his knees in the mud. The eldest brother, the patriarch, kneeling in the dirt. We will give you half the company. We will publicly apologize. Just please, Clara, please come home. We love you. I stood there, watching the rain wash over them. In my past life, this was everything I had ever dreamed of. I would have given my kidneys, my blood, my very soul to hear those words. I would have thrown the gates open and wept in their arms. But I looked at them now, and I felt nothing. No anger, no joy, just a deep, profound emptiness. You don't love me, I said. My voice cut through the thunder, soft but razor sharp. We do, Percival pleaded. No, you don't, I corrected him. You love what I did for you. You love the comfort I provided. You love that I was a punching bag for your grief over our mother. You didn't kick Lily out because you realized you loved me. You kicked her out because her shiny facade broke, and you realized she was useless to you, just like you thought I was. Clara, please. Declan reached through the bars. I took a step back, out of his reach. I died on a hospital bed, begging for you to answer your phones, I whispered. They froze. They didn't understand the context of the timeline, but the sheer haunting truth in my eyes made Percival let out a wounded gasp. The girl who wanted to be a Hastings is dead, I said firmly. I am Clara Montgomery, and if you ever show up at my home again, I will have you arrested. I turned my back on them. Clara! Clara! Please! Leo screamed, rattling the iron gates. Percival buried his face in his hands, weeping openly into the mud, while Declan collapsed against the stone pillar, entirely defeated. I didn't look back. I walked up the driveway, step by step, leaving them in the cold and the dark. When I reached the front door, Eleanor was waiting in the foyer, leaning on her cane. She looked at my calm face, then at the gates in the distance. Are you okay, my dear? I closed the heavy oak door, shutting out the storm and the ghosts of my past forever. I smiled, a genuine, radiant smile. I've never been better, grandmother. Now, let's get back to work. And that's how I left my toxic family in the dust and built an empire of my own. Sometimes the only way to win the game is to stop playing by their rules. If you love this story of ultimate revenge and finding your true worth, smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more insane reborn drama stories. And share this video with anyone who needs a reminder to never beg for love. See you next time.